Hi. So today is probably going to be the most controversial podcast I've done so far. We're going to talk about water. We're going to talk about distilled water. And what's interesting about distilled water is if you Google it, it's going to say you can die from it, you will strip all your minerals out of your body, it'll cause all sorts of diseases. When in fact, you start to research it, the opposite is the truth. And it's really a miracle. What distilled water means, actually water in motion, meaning not still water. So therefore it's fast and it's flowing and it's cleaning your body. And I have Scott with me today who's really going to explain it into depth. But I want to give you a list of what it can help you with. So basically, which I've lost now, of course. What's the point of all these notes? Yeah, okay, so it can basically help reverse all diseases, but you're not going to believe me when I say that. So I will make a list of things that it in fact helps. So you can relate to that and be like, wow. And Scott is going to explain to you how and why, but it can help with, because of the deposits inorganic minerals leaves in your body, and it starts to clean that out and it detoxifies all the toxins inside of you. It can help your kidney, your gallstone formation, hardening of the arteries, hardening of the joints, like arthritis, heart trouble, intestinal walls such as constipation, your brain, hearing problems, calcium deposits in the inner ear, which throws your balance off. So actually that's a big problem, really big problem. Pretty much.
Cancer, AIDS, diabetes, tuberculosis, you name it.
All reversible.
Pretty much all reversible.
Yeah.
From one of the universal simple truths of pure water.
So how does it do that, Scott? And who are you, Scott?
I am a health and wellness coach.
Mm-hmm.
I am a certified reconnective healing practitioner, which is a modality similar to Reiki, just hands off. I'm also a horticulturalist. I am in love with our plant allies. I have an amazing garden with fruit trees, vegetables, medicinal herbs. I'm all about energy and how really, when we get into talking about this distilled water, how the charge and how the most of the most powerful truths are the most simple.
Yeah.
And how distilled water is the curative cleanser for the human body. And the method is the volume. You have to drink at least a gallon of distilled a day.
And why is that?
Well, before I get into that, I thought I would talk about, well, one thing to preface it all. This is the water planet, 80+% water. Yeah. We are water beings, 80+% water. And we're all electromagnetic light beings. And everything that you eat, when you really break it down to the core energy that you're receiving, it is light energy, sun energy, and water.
Yeah.
So you obviously want to be, anyone who goes in nature knows that they're going to get an amazing dose of ideally the purest air, but you want to get what would you eat food-wise, you want to look at what's the sun energy potential in that food, and you want to be drinking the purest water.
The life force, that's what I always tell you guys.
It goes by many names, mana, prana, chi, but it's really light.
Yeah.
And what we'll get into later is actually the spiritual aspects of what's going on besides some of the physical manifestations, is when you drink pure water and when you distill your waters to a state of being almost as pure, it allows you to hold more light.
Yeah.
Because we came here to uplift and serve humanity.
Illumination.
Yes. And when the toxins are removed, which is the precursor to all disease, you can then remember your purpose, remember your gift, and share it, and we all thrive. But I think one of the best things to talk about is the 4 types of distilled water. Mm-hmm. And I have to give a shout out to Andrew Norton Weber. He has an amazing website, AquariusTheWaterBearer.com. He's the one that, for me, connected the dots between one of the things we're going to be talking about is urine therapy, which is urine is one of the distilled waters. Oh my, oh gosh.
Yeah, don't freak out.
Don't freak out. The program belief will hopefully be...
Urine therapy has actually been used for thousands of years by very sacred holy men.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good purification of your third eye or your consciousness.
Well, I was just going to say, let's not jump ahead. That will be the last one to talk about, so people can kind of ease into the distilled waters.
Yeah, we're slowly going to talk about
urine therapy.
That's going to keep you here till the end.
So there's 4 types of distilled. There's man-made, and maybe we should talk about what is distilled water. So in the hydrologic cycle of the earth, 80+% water, nature does it perfectly. Water evaporates off of all these bodies of water with low heat. There's no contaminants in the process, and then through rain it gets redistributed and so on and so on and so on. And there's those that say not one drop of Earth's water, and they're saying there's 500 quadrillion gallons at least in the air at any time. There's no drop that's been lost. It's all still here for us. So when you hear about places in the world where there's no water or bad water, these pockets exist, but all of the water that has been here for us for eternity is still here.
So it just rises, comes back down, rises,
yes.
comes back down, get purified, get cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I brought up nature's perfect version of the hydrologic cycle to compare it to, in making distilled water, to compare it to man's version of distilled. And all what man does to create pure distilled water is you take some water, and it can be actually quite dirty, you boil it. The steam, when it goes through a phase change, water erases all memory. The steam is then collected on the other side, and that becomes distilled water. Now with man-made version in the high heat, you always have what's called volatile organic compounds, VOCs, that come off. And every distiller has a carbon filtration to catch those before it collects. Nature's version, low heat, perfection, none of that. So you have man-made water. You have, the second one is all precipitation. Rain, snow, sleet, dew, and fog. We just talked about the hydrologic cycle of the earth. Rain, tribes used to thrive on rainwater. We've obviously polluted things a bit, but we'll get into the negative charge and how that happens.
And you guys, that's the problem with mineral water and the way everyone is drinking spring water. It's not that in a perfect world, that would be great, but actually our earth is so dirty and polluted now that it's not assimilated by your body, so it does a build-up, and then...
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about, we could definitely talk about, distilled versus all the other, heavily marketed alkaline waters, mountain water, spring water, whatever else you want to call it. It's not to say that they're bad, per se, although alkaline could certainly be, depending on what you're doing, especially Kagan, could be detrimental to your health, but they're not as powerful as distilled or reverse osmosis. So we talked about the second. The third type is all juice from fruits and vegetables is distilled water.
Which is what I love.
Yeah, and there's an amazing older documentary called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and it literally tracks these two. One of them is a trucker. They're both 300 plus pounds. They're dark, they're gray, they're lifeless. They're basically on their deathbed, and they decide to juice fast for 30 plus days. They lose all the weight, and they literally become vibrant human beings, full of life, full of light. It's an amazing transformation. But so third, distilled water, all juice from fruits and vegetables. The last one is your urine. So yes, urine is and continues to be a program belief that it's a waste, and nothing could be further from the truth. The reality is most people's urine smells because of eating toxic food, and even if you're eating well-cooked food.
Yeah.
All the animals are laughing at us.
That's why raw food, when you eat raw food, your shit doesn't smell, your piss doesn't smell, your BO doesn't smell. You smell like roses. I'm not even kidding you. Like, try it. You are distilling your whole system, actually, with fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, the juice. Yeah. The juice is a distilled water.
So if you live off that for a couple of weeks, would you say?
Yeah, you could use any of the distilled waters. I would say if you're considering the idea of becoming familiar with your urine, and it took me that amazing website I talked about, he was the one who connected the 4 types of distilled water.
Yeah.
I knew about urine therapy previously. I kind of dabbled in it,
Yeah.
but I never wholeheartedly took it in as a healing modality. And what I would suggest to people is, if you're going to do it, if you're going to try it, and we'll get into the mechanism of it, we'll get into references and books that span millennium on why it's so healing. And I would love to preface with, whenever we talk about urine, and for a lot of people that is a no-no, or it's hard to get around, or older generations will outright basically think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Know that the same healing effect in the body can happen by drinking a gallon of distilled man-made.
Yeah.
So for your family and friends that you know aren't even open to that possibility of thought, just don't give them the gallon of man-made distilled, and they'll have the same effects.
Drink their pee, but if they do get bit by a snake,
I don't want to get into that just yet.
Okay.
Not just yet. Not just yet. So, like I said, any gallon of distilled water of the 4 types will have the same healing effect. What might take, let's say, 3 to 4 months drinking a gallon of distilled a day on man-made could probably be accelerated to 1 month of your own water. And if you're going to consider doing your own urine, your own best water is what I call it.
Yeah, yeah.
Urine unfortunately has a negative connotation; it shouldn't, but your own best water. I have a book called Your Own Perfect Medicine. There's a couple others I'll reference in a second. But just to get familiar with it, look at your urine. And if you drink man-made distilled for 2 weeks, you'll find that your urine will become clearer. Granted, hopefully you're eating mostly raw, organic. Otherwise, your urine will always continue to smell cooked food.
That's why eat raw.
Yeah. Cooked food, the longer you cook it, the higher you cook it, the more it denatures.
Yeah.
The more it no longer has life force. It's gone. And all the animals are laughing at us. They're like, the story of the wolves, they just had a fresh kill, like, let's go eat it, it's perfect right now. Like, no, let me get some fire to it, let me burn it first, and then it's going to be good. No. That's why our urine smells. But if you look at it for, let's say, that 2 weeks, get familiar with it, smell it. You don't even have to drink it yet. 2 weeks on man-made distilled, and your urine will change. And our kidneys, they are our distillers. They have miles and miles of nephrons. One loop through our kidneys is better than any man-made distilled. And then if you continue to loop your water...
So you drink the urine over and over and over
yes,
again.
You literally have fountain of youth effects. And before I get into those, there's a book called Water of Life by this gentleman named John Armstrong. He was written in the 30s. He was dying of tuberculosis. He had heard of urine therapy. He fasted on his own water for 45 days, cured himself.
Yeah.
But more importantly, he went on to cure 20,000 plus people of terminally ill diseases that Western medicine said basically prepare, go home to die, by solely fasting them on their own water. Let that sink in. Find the book, Water of Life. It's all testimonials. Discern for yourself the truth in this information.
Yeah.
There's another book called Golden Fountain by, I'm going to look down for his name, Cohn Vanderkern. I read it a while ago. Fantastic reference as well for this information. But there's an ancient Vedic reference called the Shivambu Kalpa. And that basically, it's many verses in Sanskrit. But the translation is basically, drink of thine own waters, bathe in thy own waters, and you will have fountain of youth effects.
Yeah.
The mystical place that Ponce de Leon calls the fountain of youth is not some far-fetched place that we're trying to find, that he was searching for. If you look, there's hidden pictograms. If you see those little statues of boys peeing into the pool, they're literally symbolically showing the hydrologic cycle of the earth, but really what they're showing you, you have your own fountain of youth. You have your own fountain, the hydrologic cycle of yourself. You create fountain of youth effects.
How much do you want to be healthy?
Supermodels know this. They put their own urine on their face to maintain their youthful appearance.
Really?
Yes, of course. There's the gentleman who has a Portageon company who became a half-billionaire selling the urine back to the pharmaceutical companies. They collect it
I have heard that, yes.
Yeah, they collect it from the urinals in China.
So basically in a lot of pharmaceuticals there is, I think it's horse urine, right?
Well, So there's, yeah, we're going to go on a tangent. Let's do it, right? There's Murin. There's two pharmaceuticals. One's called Murin, one's called Premarin. Murin is for your eyes, and it's not even human urine. It's horse urine.
That's what
it stands for mare's urine. And there are literally people that go rescue these horses from farms where they've surgically attached to their bladder to get their urine, to rescue them from this horrid condition for us to take medicine that we could take from our own. Premarin stands for, it's for women's menopausal conditions and hormonal imbalance. Premarin stands for, it's right in the name, it's crazy. Pregnant mare's urine.
Wow.
So once you become aware of this,
urine is not so scary.
Urine is not so scary.
I mean, it's kind of scary, but it really can save your life. So
yeah. And if we get into some of the fountain of youth effects, there's a gentleman there's a YouTube video, I think he was in his 50s, he started doing distilled water, man-made, for 3 months. His gray, full set of hair went to original so youthful color.
Reverse your
hair
color.
My mom who's just dabbling, she's not doing the full gallon a day, that's the key. She has a 1/4 inch of her original hair color coming back, and she's 70, she'll be 76.
How much is she drinking a day?
Not even they only finally installed a reverse osmosis water filter. Actually, I installed mine 12 plus years ago.
So reverse osmosis is as close to distilled water as you can get, and it's pretty much almost the same. So you can go, if you don't have the money to install a system, you can actually go and get it from a water place. That's what I do. I take my big jug and I go get it, and then I have enough for like a couple of weeks of drinking water.
Well, what I would say is I did that for a while. You are going through the hassle of, one, going to have to get your water and transport it. You're drinking out of plastic. And it's something that when you get a reverse osmosis water system, and they're not expensive, you can get a decent one from $200 to $400. You now have a separate spigot at your sink. So you're no longer just getting your water. You now have water you can wash your fruits and vegetables with, that you can water your plants with, your garden. And you never have to worry about the pollution from the plastic bottles, from both your intake and the Earth's need to dispose of it. Having said that, there's an awesome entrepreneurial opportunity for people out there. Someone needs to make, you can buy over-the-counter water distillers.
Deliver large amounts of distilled water.
Or make one that's automatic under the sink, like a reverse osmosis system.
That would be
Because that's, I didn't know about distilled when I was buying my system, but now that I do, I probably would have gone that route.
Yeah.
We still buy 20 to 30 gallons of distilled water a day.
Yeah.
It's what gets into my water bottle, my portable drinking water, and we still use that to make tea and everything. But to have the reverse osmosis, we should actually get into a talk of, well, a couple things. So you mentioned earlier, and it's important to talk about it, because when you Google distilled water, and remember, everything about urine therapy, do not worry. If it totally doesn't appeal to you, drink regular distilled water, and you'll have the same healing effects.
We don't expect for you to go and drink your urine. It's only for the bravest who really want to explore their health. And it probably would be a long process before you get there,
It takes a bit.
But honestly, if you're eating raw food, your piss does not smell. It's like it's been detoxified.
If you continue to loop your water, it actually will take on a sweetness. Your urine is never meant to be dark. That means you're dehydrated. Most people are chronically dehydrated. They're not getting enough water whatsoever, and they're not getting the right kind of water. Let's talk about if you Google distilled water. You mentioned it earlier. So if you Google distilled, it will leach minerals from your body, or at the worst will cause an early death. Okay? Yes. What they do, it's an on-purpose half-truth. They don't differentiate what type of minerals. So yes, distilled water will leach minerals from your body, but there's two classifications. There's inorganic minerals. Inorganic minerals has nothing to do with farming. It has to do with the ionic state, the electromagnetic charge. All toxins in the body, for the most part, simply everything bad has a positive charge,
Yeah.
kind of the opposite connotation of the word. You wonder why it is that way. Everything that is good, organic minerals, has a negative charge. So when you drink distilled water, and let's do a short breakdown of H2O. Distilled water is pure water. So the oxygen has 6 slots. 2 of them are taken up by the hydrogen. The other 4 slots in pure water that's why it's called distilled. Water in motion, water aggressively looking to attach. So all the toxic sludge that's in your body that has the positive charge, when you drink that flow, that gallon a day, it can do nothing. Magnets attract, opposites attract. The negatively charged distilled water will automatically begin to remove the sludge, the toxins, the disease from your body. It can only do that.
Yeah.
But the key is the flow. All the healing testimonials come from minimum a gallon a day.
Yeah. So get ready.
Yeah.
So minimum a gallon a day, and not only will it draw out these inorganic minerals, and a lot of them are like sitting in your arteries as like this casing that's like hard, and like it has to be broken up.
I mean,
and
if you look at all atherosclerotic plaque, anything that it becomes really the awesome truths of the universe, the most powerful or the most simple. Distilled water will go in and flush out all toxin, all dis-ease in the body, because it's just simply the charge.
Yeah.
And I had a brain fart. Hold on.
You need some water.
I'm gonna have some water. Yeah. Actually,
well, even in your brain, even in your pineal gland, your consciousness, there are buildup of really calcium, and distilled water, if you drink enough, will go in there and get it out. You just have to keep doing it.
So your pineal gland. So you have a blood-brain barrier, and to back it up, your kidneys are literally going through, and people aren't aware of this, 1,000 liters a day. They're filtering 1,000 liters a day through your blood. That's about 250 gallons a day. And your pineal gland, which is this tiny little cone, it's actually, you see to your soul, third eye. It literally is a third eye. It has rods and cones. It faces upward. And even though you have a blood-brain barrier, your pineal gland and it connects your right and left hemisphere of your brain, gets full blood flow. And fluoride, unfortunately, calcifies the pineal gland.
And it's a cumulative.
It's a cumulative effect. So that philosopher's stone, it becomes stone. But when you start to drink a gallon a day of distilled in any of its 4 forms, you literally melt away those deposits. And some people will report having testimonials, crown chakra bursts. Because
huge spiritual experiences. Because
you've now awakened the dormant, calcified pineal gland that was basically literally, I actually had a health issue years and years ago where I had a CAT scan on my brain and wasn't even aware of what we're talking about. And the doctor in the elevator on the way out said, "Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you know your pineal gland's partially calcified." I'm like, okay, well, is that bad or is that good?
Wow.
But most of us have that, unless you've been drinking distilled water, unless you've been eating pure foods.
I've heard the average American by the age of 12 has like a really calcified, because of the foods and toxins.
And then especially if you're drinking tap city water that they add fluoride in, which in 60 plus other countries they don't put in.
It's insane.
It's outlawed.
Fluoride is one of the most toxic
that's actually,
substances.
we could go on a whole nother topic with that.
Aluminium and fluoride. It's
most heavy metals, most inorganic minerals is what we're back to again. So to speak to that too, I brought what's called, this came with my reverse osmosis water system. And if you talk about the ionic charge in the water, the dissolved solids, so this is called the Tds Meter, stands for total dissolved solids. And what it does, I don't know if you can see this, it's like, you can get these online.
Maybe hold it up to this camera.
This camera, is it in frame? Yep. So long story short, you press a button, a little display comes up, 3 numbers, ppm, parts per million. These 2 little electrodes, all they're doing is measuring the total dissolved solids in the water. And the reason they give it to you, and you can get them, like I said, cheaply online for less than 20 bucks with your reverse osmosis system, is so you can compare your before filtered water, your tap water, and your after filtered water. And it also gives you an indication of when it's time to change the filters. And what it will do is read, you put it in the water, and it's literally reading the total dissolved solids. And what that means is, in distilled water, if you put this in distilled water, it will read 0. It's a giant, pure, negative magnet.
So that's what you're aiming for, 0 parts.
Yes, 0 parts per million. After my reverse osmosis, it gets it to 5 to 10 parts per million. That will also give you the same healing effects.
And what about
with tap water, it can be anywhere, and even so, mountain and spring water is 150 parts per million around.
Yeah.
And tap water is anywhere from 300 to 400 plus. Some city water 600 plus parts per million.
Don't do it.
And the idea on this is, if you think about a magnet, think of that like horseshoe magnet you had as a kid, and you stick it in a bunch of nails, right? It will hold so many nails that it can hold. Look at those as the inorganic minerals. And it will only hold so many, and if you actually try to go to get more and you lift it away, some will possibly even fall off. And the analogy I'm trying to create here is, with distilled water, you have that giant, pure, negative magnet. Nothing's loaded it, right? But when you think about, we talked about it earlier, one of the distilled waters is rain. And once rain comes down, this pure negative magnet, it's instantly picking up inorganic material from the air. Mm-hmm. But if you think about what mountain and spring water is, so the water, the distilled rainwater hits the earth, and you have inorganic minerals in the earth, from the rocks, the soil, from the salt, from all the ancient oceans. Those are all, and by the way, salt is another topic. Stay away from salt, avoid salt. It's medicine, it's not food. It's an inorganic mineral. It calcifies and fossilizes the body, but I'm going to leave it at that. He has an awesome salt crime section on that. Let's continue our story. The distilled water comes down, picks up, the amazing magnet starts to pick up the inorganic minerals from the salt dirt earth. And it brings it, in essence, it becomes, as it travels, mountain spring water that you can buy in the store.
Yeah.
Which is decent, but when you think about it, what you want to put in your body is pure water that has the ability to use all of its negative power to get the sludge out of you.
Yeah.
Why have it pick up minerals you can't utilize, inorganic minerals you can't utilize?
It's going to build up, so then you have to get it back out. So.
And when this amazing inorganic spring mountain water gets to the plants, they do the magic. They're the only ones that can transform inorganic minerals with the positive charge into organic minerals. When it comes in, they then transform through photosynthesis inorganic minerals with a positive charge into organic minerals you can use with a negative charge. So when you eat plants, fruits, and vegetables, you're getting, and that's why juicing plants, vegetables,
eating all raw food.
Yes,
that's your
juicing
water.
is a distilled water for that very reason.
It's filtrated, distilled, cleansed, the cleanest high vibe water.
And speaking of cleansing, and one very important thing that sometimes is overlooked to talk about, the detox effects.
Yeah, don't get scared if you start having horrible headaches and stuff.
So, depending on your state of health going into starting distilled waters, the gallon a day, that's the average for a 150-pound male. Less if you're under that, but you really want to get, some people do a gallon and a half, some people go 2 gallons, but you want to do a minimum of a gallon a day. And if, think about it, if you were doing smoothies with distilled water, drinking your own water,
teas,
juicing, you're probably getting it, or you're going to at least try to incorporate it in. But the detox effects, this may happen day 3, this may happen day 30, it may not happen at all, but to be aware so that when they come, a lot of people that start healing foods and waters, like, wait a minute, I feel worse before, I'm stopping. And what they don't realize, it's called a Herxheimer crisis. It's a healing crisis, but it's actually your body, your brain getting the signal. We can let go of these toxins that we've held on to for so long. So your breath may smell, your body odor may smell, your poo may smell, it may be black, it may smell like petroleum.
It's all coming out.
Your skin, you may off-gas chlorine if you grew up with pools. You may get rashes and pimples in strange places. You may feel nauseous. You may feel like a low-grade fever. These are just to be aware of. It may not happen at all, but once you're aware, then you know you're on the healing path. And at the same time, usually within 3 days of drinking distilled, a gallon a day, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to have more energy. So it's just a counterbalance to be aware of these detox effects so that when you do switch to these amazing healing waters, you know that this is a possible effect, an outcome, and it's actually part of your healing.
Yeah.
And I remember having rashes and pimples in strange places. Some of the more amazing healing effects, wrinkles will literally pop out. You're hydrating your body. You literally have fountain of youth effects that, because in essence it's the 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 curative for all diseases, which sounds crazy, because that's why if you Google distilled, leach minerals from your body, cause early death. Really, you know, why would you want to hide this knowledge? If you dig deeper, you'll find the truth. But why wouldn't you want the general public to know this? Because if you do, the pharmaceutical cartels may not have the income that they've had when you realize you can cure most of your issues.
That's the thing, like, nature really provides all the things you need to heal with, but sadly man has tried to make money out of that. And if you think about it, distilled water is really cheap.
Oh yeah, and you go, so yeah, let's take an example, like, to help people out. You go into the store. If you look at these waters we just talked about, spring, mountain, mineral, alkaline, stay away from alkaline. That's inorganic minerals they're adding you can't utilize, and they're charging you a lot of money for something that's of no effect to you and taking away the healing property of pure water. Distilled water, a gallon, is about $1. Yeah. Ralph's has it for $1 a gallon. Yeah. I don't normally shop at Walmart, but if you're buying, you want to go to a place that kind of goes through it quicker, because the longer it's sitting there, distilled will potentially pick up some of the plastic, but know that you don't have to fear that. So that's a question some people have.
Well, and also we don't want the reason why I do the reverse osmosis is I do not want to use a plastic bottle each time. It's like environmentally not okay.
Right.
You know?
But in the beginning, if you want to try this, if you're not committing to buying a reverse osmosis system or a distilled water system, definitely buy it. Whatever plastic that may be coming through the charge of the distilled, it's going to hold it. So it's not going to go in your body. Excuse me. It's going to pass through and collect everything else like it does in your body that has all the positively charged toxic sludge that you've accumulated over years. And one of the things we should talk about is, and this goes with urine therapy, which is distilled water therapy, you never again have to fear a snake bite, a spider bite, a scorpion bite. All the information, a bee sting, and so those are more fatal potentialities, but even down to lesser allergic reactions, it all works in the same mechanism, and this is it. Seconds after that, and remind me to tell the story of my wife with a stingray bite. Seconds after the poison, the toxin, the allergen enters your body, it's instantly in your urine. Remember, we said 1,000 liters a day. Your kidneys are processing 1,000 liters a day. They're the amazing distiller. And that information, that energy of that allergen, of that poison is there. So all you have to do is pee in your hand and wait 12 to 15 seconds. It's probably within your urine within nanoseconds. Wait 12 to 15 seconds, pee in your hand, put it under your tongue. And the reason, and hold it there for 12 to 15 seconds. And the reason is this. Under your tongue, you have 2 lymph nodes, and they receive the information that your body has already put the information in the urine.
The antibodies.
The antigens are in your urine, and the lymph nodes will create the antibody. They will create the cure. So you don't have to rush to the hospital.
This is what your body does when you don't fuck with it.
Yeah.
It really does its work
well.
It
will, even if you're in a state of ill health, it will still heal you.
Yeah.
I mean, think back to the book, The Water of Life. These people were on their deathbed, and solely by fasting on their urine, which, when they started, must have tasted pretty awful. But once your kidneys loop it through, it gets purified and purified. And this is the same principle here. You never have to fear catastrophic things, and the perfect example is my wife. Potentially fatal is what I should say instead of catastrophic. We were at the beach. This was a year and a half ago, Thanksgiving. Walking out, wading out, and she started screaming, "Ow, ow, ow, something bit me, something bit me." And I was like, wait, what's going on, what's going on? And we got to the shore, I looked at it, it looked like a tiny prick on her big toe. But she's a trooper, and I know she wouldn't be exclaiming in this much pain. I'm like, it's not a crab bite. Yeah, and I said, in my mind, I'm thinking, this is probably a stingray sting. But I didn't want to say it, and we were close to the lifeguard station. I said, let's go over to lifeguards and see what they say. So we got there. They said, yeah, we've had 20 plus stings today. The water was warmer. They've been coming in, and you need to shuffle your feet so when you step on it, you don't step on it so they go away. But she stepped on one. Natural reaction, the barbed tail got her in the toe. She was in extreme pain. They're having rate the pain. They were saying, look, if it gets worse, you need to go to the emergency room. And it could get worse over the next 24 or 48 hours. They dug a hole in the sand. They put her foot in the water, hot, scalding water to help relieve the pain.
Wow.
But this was our perfect opportunity, and she knew from the information from what I told her. Long story short, I went to go get the car after they helped her, told us what we might expect the next 48 hours, potentially a hot emergency room visit. Got to the car on the parking lot. They drove her in the, in the back of the emergency lifeguard truck to the parking lot. She said, let's do this. So she peed into a cup. And within 20 minutes, by the time we got home, all pain had disappeared. Amazing. Now, and what's amazing is, had we done it instantly, it would have been even that much quicker.
Yeah.
Gone, no pain, nothing. She had a little bit of the barb pain but the increasing pain that was traveling up her legs stopped. Yeah, it's amazing. And there's other stories of people that are allergic to wasp stings, same cessation. Yeah. Originally went to the emergency room, got the EpiPen, all the adrenaline, and next time it happened to him, didn't have to do it because and on a much lower level, which is amazing. I grew up with dogs. I love dogs. I love all animals. I was, as a youngster, and my brother as well, highly allergic to cats. Hives, nose running, closing of the throat, sneezing, you name it. 7+ years ago, I got a cat. I rescued a cat right outside my place. I had no intention of keeping him, knowing that I had an allergy, and when he was young, he didn't affect me. But he got under my skin. I fell in love with this amazing being. And I still have him to this day. And for a long time, I was having serious allergic reactions when I would call my family, and they could hear the coarseness of my voice or my breath. They'd be like, Scott, we know you love the cat, but what are you doing? This is not healthy. You got. So I started with homeopathy. And what I didn't mention, when we go back to the example of if you get bit by something that's poisonous, that's potentially fatal, what's really happening, the mechanism, what's happening is your kidney, which is filtering through your blood and your urine, is leaving in the urine homeopathic dots. And homeopathy, without getting into it, is like treats like. It's leaving, and they're infinitesimally small. That's what homeopathy is. You take the antigen, the poison, whatever the thing that's the problem in your body, and you dilute it infinitesimally, and then you take it. When you take those little boron, little caplets that have all kinds of little
things.
Yeah. You're literally taking something, and that's what you're doing when you take that urine in your hand and put it under your tongue. The homeopathic dots are being received by your lymph nodes under your tongue. And that's what's discerning what's wrong. Hey, this is the bugger. This is what we have to create. Yeah. And bam, 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 it creates the antibodies.
Your body is so intelligent.
Yeah. Yes.
It is a constant machine of healing. And you have to trust that if you really want to be healthy. Everything the Western doctors use to treat your symptoms is just like a bad Band-Aid. But if you really, really want holistic health, you have to understand the body is one big machine, and it's really intelligent.
Yes, and if you look at it in a very simple way, distilled water, once again, is the cleanser for the human body. And high volume is the key, 1 gallon a day. Yeah. If you look at how Eastern and Western medicine treats disease, they're usually going to the symptom. And when you go to try and treat the symptoms, you're kind of guaranteed future income because you're always treating the symptoms.
Yeah, you're never going to get to the root.
The origin.
Yeah.
And all distilled water, that beautiful, magical healing powers, the fountain of youth effects, the simplicity is the ionic charge. Everything that you've built up in your body, currently intaking, and years worth of toxins, as well as pathogens, viral, parasitic, fungal, bacterial, all for the most part, have a positive charge. So between the toxic sludge and the pathogens,
so it'll pull out parasites of your.
We'll do that as well. But once again, the key is the flow, the minimum of 1 gallon, because you need to get all your inorganic minerals, all your toxic sludge, all your pathogens in solution, so that when they
flush it,
they're getting flushed out.
Yeah.
And your the whole urine thing. Oh, wasn't that's the program belief that it's waste? No. Your liver is your kidneys are constantly filtering your blood, that amazing 250 gallons a day. Your liver, but it drops off all the toxins to your liver, and your liver exposes them through both your skin, your breath, and your feces. Yeah. But your urine, it only smells because you're somewhat toxic in that you're eating cooked food, but like I said, try it. 2 weeks of man-bought distilled, and notice how your urine changes color, notice how the smell goes away, and then you can dabble in it if you will. and find out what's written about for all eternity.
The great thing about telling someone who's suffering with a disease to drink their own urine is you start with that. You scare the shit out of them. Like I said to my brother, you have to drink your own urine, because he was he had high blood pressure and was really, really suffering from it. And I hadn't seen him for years, and I was really shocked to see him. I was like, oh my God, this is not good news. And I was like, how is this guy who eats so much meat and dairy gonna like change? I did not know what to do. So I started by saying, you have to drink your own urine. And he was like, absolutely not, absolutely not. By the end, he agreed to go on a 28-day juice cleanse where you do get a gallon of nature's best distilled water through juices and vegetables. And within 2 weeks, he was off all his medications. Amazing. And he was like, this is ridiculous. This is so easy. It's so simple. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't want to believe me.
Yeah. And the emphasis again is, whenever we refer to urine, just know, for those that are unwilling to hear or unwilling to try, regular distilled, a gallon a day will have the same effect.
Vegetable and
so that we'll
juices.
repeat. 4 types of distilled: man-made, all juice from fruits and vegetables, all precipitation, rain, snow, sleet, dew, fog, and your own urine.
Yes. And I think that's probably it. But you have been an information and a fountain of wisdom and
I like the analogy,
healing.
fountain.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say that, I kind of started at the beginning. All matter is condensed light. The Maya of anything that looks like it's solid, it's just vibrating at a slower vibration. And the more that there's one little point that I wanted to make that helps in this current electromagnetic smog that we all live in, unfortunately.
From the
now.
Wi-Fi, yeah.
When I talked about measuring the TDS, the total dissolved solids of the water you're drinking, but you can also, in essence, measure your own. A little known fact, or a well-known fact, is that every electrician knows this. Water will conduct electricity at 2 parts per million and above, but it will not below that when you get to 0 and 1. And the key takeaway here is, and it's really important, because
there's a tipping point.
There's a tipping point. The more you drink the pure water, the more you get your total dissolved solids, the more you get close to 0. And you can measure this in an ohms meter. That's another story. The more so literally a light bulb, they can conduct electricity through water at 2 parts per million above. But below that you don't. And what the ramifications for the human body, for the human electromagnetic system is, you will not be affected. And as you get closer and closer to 0, you will not be affected. But as you get there, you'll be less and less affected by cellular, Wi-Fi, HARP arrays, radio. We are inundated. Our eyes see this, if you remember back to elementary school, there's the electromagnetic spectrum of energy. And we have this visible light spectrum. We see this tiny sliver. We see a tiny sliver. There's all this energy all around us.
Exactly.
But when you get your water close to distilled, when you purify your waters, you are less and less affected by electromagnetic smog, which in turn allows you as a light being. I'm sorry, I'm going on a little more tangents, but
this is super important because this is your spiritual side. This is your conscious, and it's like really, with that, once you've healed that, you're only gonna serve your body correctly.
What we're really getting at is So there's an ancient rod of Asclepius. I'm probably butchering the name, but you've probably seen it before. There's the caduceus, which is the rod with the 2 intertwining snakes. It represents the chakra system. But the rod of Asclepius is basically a simple rod, a fire rod, which represents light, and a I don't know if I'm even am I showing in here? Fire rod that represents light, but since it's a simple rod, you could draw in a diagram, and a snake, which actually represents water, the undulating, all omnipresent aspect of water. And you are, if you turn it on its side, it'll actually spell man, and you can see like the waves of the M, the A, and the N, and then the line going through, but you are the light in the water. And the reason I bring that up is, the more you purify your waters, and we talked about getting below 2 parts per million, but really what we're talking about is the more pure your water is, the more pure your being is, the more light you can hold. Yeah. And when we all remember part of our clogged, polluted pineal gland, part of our toxic sludge overload from the unfortunate corporate food supply and our contaminated water and air, when we all are purifying our waters, purifying our food, and eating that light energy, it allows you to hold more light. It allows you to remember your purpose, that we're all here to bring our gifts in their totality, in their fullest expression. Yeah. And when you hold more light, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to bring more joy. You're allowed to, not only within yourself, not only to others,
well,
it radiates throughout the universe, because all is one.
I mean, that's the thing. Without all the toxic buildup, we do become the Son of God. We are the Son of God.
We already are. It's just a matter of cleaning it up to its already pristine state.
Finding that divine, beautiful
But it already exists. It never left. It's there, waiting to be rediscovered.
Just clean it out. Get on the water.
And just as it's waiting to be rediscovered, so this knowledge that we're talking about, this is not new. This is ancient knowledge. Yeah. This is knowledge that everyone should know, and everyone used to know.
It was hidden from us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Scott, so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.